Liverpool are chasing the new Erling Haaland that could give Jürgen Klopp an advantage in the Champions League. Erling Haaland may have moved on to Liverpool's arch-rivals at Manchester City, but his legacy in the Austrian Bundesliga has paved the way for many young forwards to follow in his footsteps. From Karim Adeyemi to Patson Daka and Benjamin Eko, the league has been a hunting ground for exciting young forwards. Most of them are produced by Red Bull Salzburg's highly productive striker factory, but this season the league is starting to host exciting forwards with promising potential from other Austrian clubs as well. 3 of the top 4 scorers in the league so far this season are under 21, and one in particular has scored an incredible amount as he started his life in Austria. There's even a parallel with Haaland's fast start to the league, even scoring 4 goals in one game since arriving in Austria this summer. 20-year-old Marin Ljubii signed with LASK this summer and has scored 9 goals and recorded 2 assists in his first 5 games for the club. He currently continues in the Austrian Bundesliga with 6 goals in 4 matches. Playing for Hajduk Split, Ljubii scored 9 goals and recorded 4 assists in 44 games for the club. He is not as productive as he is now, but earned the nickname of Split Kylian Mbappé for his speed and agility. An explosive striker with the physicality to suit a top team, Ljubii is a player Liverpool follow closely. He's still young with promising potential and performing in a league where there's a lot of priority for players to move on to bigger and better things. The arrival of Darwin Nunez marked a new evolution in Jürgen Klopp's Liverpool offensive featuring a more traditional number 9. However, the star forward's lack of 3 games due to a red card in the last game showed that Liverpool is a bit lacking in offense at the moment and may need to strengthen their options next summer, especially as Roberto Firmino's contract expires next summer. If Ljubii can maintain his form, then he will definitely be an ideal target for the role and will likely be transferred to a Liverpool standard wage. This will allow Julian to use the majority of FSG's budget for more pressing needs in the midfield. Signing Ljubii will not only provide an exciting young forward for the club next summer, but also ensure that he is a Croatian player at Anfield for the first time since Dejan Lovren. And that's a good sign, especially considering that no team has ever won the Champions League without a Croatian player on the roster in the last 10 years. Split Mbappé is definitely a player to consider, and it will be interesting to see how he evolves over the coming months and whether he can maintain his explosive form. The Liverpool recruiting team is indeed working effectively. The £50,000 a week star is expected to join Liverpool seeking a deal no earlier than next summer. Liverpool are constantly in touch with Jude Bellingham and the latest news is getting interesting. According to the information received from the German press, the UK international is expected to join the Merseysiders next summer, and so it is rumoured that instead of selling Keita now, they may let Keita leave for free in 2023. However, reports from 3 weeks ago indicated that Liverpool were willing to make a deal in the January transfer window that would allow the player to move to Anfield. Considering the current midfield crisis, it would be fair to say that Jürgen Klopp desperately needs the Borussia Dortmund star right now. With Thiago's injury, the Reds lacked creativity in the centre of the park, and the depth also turned midfield into collapsing with Jones and Chamberlain injured. In such a situation, Liverpool must sign a box-to-box midfielder who is energetic, able to put pressure on and more importantly regularly contributes to goals. Bellingham directly contributed to 20 goals last season and is one of the most complete youngsters as he can play effectively in roles 6, 8 and 10. Even though the young star is at the beginning of his career, he has shown that he has the skills to play in every region of the midfield, and it is exciting to think how high these qualities will be in the hands of Klopp. Former Anfield star Jamie Redknapp also urged the Reds to secure the 19-year-old star's signing before the current transfer window closes, saying they would otherwise fall behind their rivals. Frankly, I agree with Redknapp's comment. Liverpool played an unsatisfactory game in the first game of the season and all the fans clearly saw that the missing area was the midfield. Recruiting Bellingham this summer is of course difficult, but it can't be more difficult than risking losing a season. Although Klopp persistently talked about the proficiency of the midfielders at hand, the aging of Henderson and Milner and the constant injuries of the other midfielders obviously did not present a promising picture for the future. The boss should be trusted, but we should not ignore a fact. With the Liverpool side like this, if we look at the situation on the player side, the 3 Lions players' current contract at Signal Iduna Park will expire in 2025 and he's on a salary of around £50,000 a week. It's time to break the bank to transfer the player, and maybe it's past. You can share your thoughts about Liverpool's midfield and Bellingham transfer in the comments. As Naby Keita and Liverpool transfer truth clarifies, Jürgen Klopp must postpone tough talks. Liverpool midfielder Naby Keita has been controversial since arriving at Anfield. One view believes he failed to stay in shape for most of his time at Merseyside, while the other believes he could have made himself a useful roster presence had it not been for his injuries. A couple of days ago, Sky Germany shared news that Liverpool could sell Keita this summer and was unhappy with the player's condition, and Jürgen Klopp was asked about this at a press conference in front of Manchester United. I have to respond to the news, but if you find out from my side that is certainly not the case, Klopp said, rejecting the suggestion that the £52 million midfielder wants to leave. Naby was sick, she's in training now and she's looking good. She's not the type to be overly happy when she's not playing, but everything is fine, he added. Do you think Liverpool should let Keita leave if a big enough offer is put on the table this summer? If I were to express my own opinion, there is a clear choice for me to make. I think Naby Keita should be allowed to leave, but on one condition. It definitely needs to be replaced by a player this summer. I'm one of the advocates of having Keita on the pitch without Thiago, but it's still hard to ignore how many games he missed. Yes, last season he didn't miss that much due to injury and had his most productive season in terms of minutes on the court, but this may be the exception to the rule and a return to form this season. If he's sending signals that he's unhappy with contract negotiations, it's better to sell him now rather than let him leave for free in a year. If he comes up with a bid of more than £20 million for Keita this summer, it would be foolish for Liverpool to refuse. I'd reluctantly let him go, but only if he wasn't willing to play ball in terms of extending his deal on club terms. Roberto Firmino has one last chance to force Jürgen Klopp into Liverpool's tough decision. Some big games are coming up that will sum up the rest of Roberto Firmino's season at Liverpool. The Brazilian player had a tough 2021-2022 and grappled with injuries that severely limited the number of games he started for the Reds. After Firmino's unfortunate injury while in form, Diogo Jota really used his space in the squad and took over his role. Jürgen Klopp thinks Liverpool's £85 million duo will soon ignite properly and Darwin Nunez will benefit. But Mane's departure, in addition to the recent arrival of Darwin Nunez and Jota's pre-season injury, gave Firmino another chance to lead Fulham away on the opening day of the season. Firmino was unable to make the most of his chances against the newly promoted side and was replaced by Nunez, who made an instant impact in the second half. Liverpool looked decidedly more menacing on the pitch with the Uruguayan, and there was little doubt he would nod in the second game of the season against Crystal Palace. And we've all seen how that turned out. Nunez's vicious behaviour cost him a 3-game ban, meaning he will now be unable to play against Manchester United, Bournemouth and Newcastle. And this is where fortune can smile at Firmino once again. With Jota still unavailable, the Brazilian will once again be burdened to lead the line with Nunez's penalty, and this time Firmino must make the most of the void these shortcomings will create in the squad. This will likely be a game that will give a clue as to what role Firmino will play for the rest of the season. If he performs well in 3 games, he could go a long way in convincing Klopp to make him the first choice to return to Nunez ahead of Jota this season. However, if things go wrong and Firmino shows a remake of his Fulham look, then it will mark the end of his time as a Liverpool starter and will have to accept a bench role from now until the end of his final season at Anfield. What's more, if Firmino is ineffective against this version of Manchester United, who have lost to Brentford and Brighton so far this season, he can't seem to avoid being confined to the bench. If he wants a new contract, his future may depend on it. Do you think Firmino will be able to perform effectively?